Hello, lovely you, and welcome to the Living Aware Parenting podcast. My name's Marion Rose, PhD, and I'm a Level 2 Aware Parenting instructor and the Regional Coordinator for Australia, New Zealand and Indonesia. And this series is all about celebrating Aletha's 80th birthday. So I'm recording this out in my front garden because it's at least 32 degrees, if not more, and inside my house is full of fans. Other places I often stand are boiling hot. So there may be some background noise. If you've listened to any of my podcast episodes, you'll know that that is kind of par for the course. And I'm sending love to any feelings you might have hearing that. And I want to say, for me, this is about living aware parenting, about embodying, about the reality, the nuances, the lived experience, which is not like I don't know, lights, camera, action. It's like the reality of day-to-day life. So I'm so excited to be doing this series, and the idea to create this little mini-series came to me when I first discovered, well, how did I realise this? I think probably just from reading the front of Aletha's books and seeing her birth year. I was aware that she was going to be turning 80 this year. And at some point I asked her when her birthday was, and she told me it's December the 21st, which is actually yesterday now, here when I'm recording this. And I said to her, so I had this idea of doing a series that would really be celebrating her. So having some instructors, aware parenting instructors, coming on and sharing about how in really tangible and practical ways aware parenting has affected their life and the lives of others that they work with. And I've been planning it for months, but all kinds of things happened and showed up, and so I'm now recording it the day after your birthday, Aletha, if you're watching this. And if you know me, I always trust the timing of things as well. So there will be some instructors coming on as well in a number of episodes. Just as a little taster. I mean, what I would love to do one day, and it's been a dream of mine for many, many, many years since summits first came out. Summits, of having lots of people on, is one day having a really big community, like as many instructors who want to be a part of it. So this is a little taster of maybe something like that. Maybe for your 90th birthday, Aletha, we'll have something like that. Anyway. So I have a series of questions that I'm going to be going through, and I'm sent out this long list to the instructors for them to choose from. And there are so many of them, and I probably want to answer a lot of them. So I'm going to get the list up now so that I can be also looking at that at the same time as recording this. So the first question is, what would you like to say, Aletha, about the difference that aware parenting has made to your life? Well, my life, I think, would have taken a completely different trajectory if it hadn't been for aware parenting. If I think about my lovelies now who are 19 and 23, and the deep connection that I see that they have with themselves, I have every faith that that was really supported by practicing aware parenting with them. And I do want to say there are many times that I didn't practice aware parenting the ways I would have wanted to. Many times my own feelings showed up that prevented me from acting or responding the most optimum way. And still, I really, really, really see the huge effect that it has had on them and on our relationship. If I reflect back on the time together and I think about all these time junctures where, without the understanding that aware parenting brings, I can imagine that we would have gone on very different pathways. I can imagine the different places we might have gone if I hadn't understood about these three core aspects of aware parenting: attachment style parenting, non-punitive discipline, most of all understanding the power of stress and trauma on babies, children and teens, preventing stress and trauma wherever possible, and supporting the healing of that with their innate healing processes of laughter and play and crying and raging with loving support. There are so many time points that I can go through and think, wow, if I hadn't known about aware parenting then, if I hadn't known about aware parenting. One of the core times, once their dad and I separated, and Sonny went from being the most calm and present person I've ever met to hitting and headbutting many times a day. It was so hard anyway, and I really want to say that if you're already practicing aware parenting can be really challenging, particularly because most of us were not brought up in this way. Most of us are not part of a community of other people doing this, and the cultural setup makes it really hard because so many things are set up against practicing these three aspects. But so many times I think, gosh, if I understand what's going on and I know what to do, and this is still hard. But if I hadn't actually understood what was going on for him then, for example, or I'd understood in a vague way, oh my gosh, this is clearly related to what's just happened, but I had no idea what to do. I cannot imagine the even more levels of pain that I would have experienced, and the just lostness of not being able to support him to heal from that trauma that he experienced. All the ways in which most of the time we were so deeply connected, so many ways in which we had so much delicious connection, so much of the time was delicious, and all of the ways in which aware parenting supported that, because the larger percentage of our child's needs were able to meet, the more of their feelings were able to listen to, support them expressing, the more relaxed they are, the more they want to cooperate and contribute, the easier it is for them to sleep. They're relaxed in their bodies, and they radiate that, and not all of the time, but a lot of the time, and that just made the whole experience with them, and still does, so enjoyable to be with these beings that a lot of the time were really present and really relaxed. That transforms parenting, let alone sleep. Having so much sleep from when they were a relatively young age, and supporting secure attachment and co-sleeping for a very long period of time, and breastfeeding, but still having plenty of sleep, and not sleep where I was waking up every hour to breastfeed, but full sleep. And again, you know me, if you know me, maybe you don't. I am unwilling to judge anybody about anything, including myself. The sleep, but also all the times that were challenging, having this framework and understanding, and having the practices to practice that actually work. They really work. The proof is in the pudding. They actually work. So the times when there were challenges, like the rupture that Lana and I had at that same time, when Sonny started hitting her as well as me, and the many times that I did know exactly what was the most apt response, and the many times because of my own pain I wasn't able to do that, and many times then he did hit her, and the effect of that on our relationship, because I many times did not protect her from that, and how we were over time. And it actually took a really long time, and you probably heard me share about this, but that did get repaired. All the ways in which when things were really challenging, I think about many times with Sonny and screens, especially when he was a younger teen and tween. How again, it was still challenging, really challenging at times, but with aware parenting, I knew what was going on, I knew what was happening, I knew what the most helpful responses were. And again, I cannot imagine what it would have been without those. So I want to say, Aletha, thank you for giving us this clear map of understanding babies, children and teens, and these incredible practices that really support that innate wisdom of children that really transform the parenting experience, even when it's hard. Even when it's hard, it's way less hard than it would have otherwise been. And as I say, I imagine we would have all, as a family, been in a very different place now had we not had these maps and practices. But not only that, I have met so many people, like just about everyone I know practices aware parenting, all my closest friends, my colleagues, having worked as an instructor for 20 years, but before that I had an in-person group, all the ways in which I have community, a sense of like-minded community, which has been not only met so many needs, but it's been so healing for me from my own past experiences. To have that sense, again, is unfathomable to me how different my life would have been without that sense of like-minded community all around the world. And including working with thousands of parents and hearing their stories and having connections with people and understandings of people's experiences in so many different countries around the world. What an incredible gift that's been. It's helped me have a sense of deep meaning and purpose, ways that I have created things, written books, made courses, done all the things. And again, because of my deep passion for aware parenting, it has been the impetus and the vision, and it's what's helped me then work with all the past hurts and all the big painful feelings that originally came up when I went to offer one-on-one sessions, when I went to offer workshops, when I went to offer one-on-one groups, all these different ways in which, because of my passion for aware parenting, because of my desire to share it with others who might then resonate, it has invited me to do so much healing so that I could do that, so that I could offer the one-on-one sessions, so that I could offer the workshops and the in-person groups and the online courses and the podcasts and the books and the all the things. So thank you, Aletha. My life is a completely different trajectory, I think, than it would have been. My life has been on a completely different trajectory than it would have been had I not discovered about, had I not learned about aware parenting. It's helped me transform my relationship with my mum. It's helped me go on to then develop the Marion method for reparenting, which is not an aware parenting term. So it's also supported that, or invited or inspired that. That's the word. It's inspired that. So I'm going to go through the next questions. Which aspect of Aletha's work has touched me the most? I would probably say that the understanding of control patterns. I do not know any other modality in the world that understands how babies first learn to suppress or dissociate from their feelings in the most clearest and precise way, and that also supports parents to know how to reduce the amount of suppression or dissociation there is, and to track that development. I remember when I first read about this in Aletha's books, and how the ways we suppress feelings often morph as we enter different life phases. So thumb sucking might morph into nail biting, which might morph into biting a pencil. I mean, the understanding exactly how feelings are suppressed right from day dot, and how exactly that shows up, and what's actually happening in the body, and how as parents we can support children, and how we can trace that back as adults to our own journey. I mean, oh my gosh, that's been so life-changing, especially as someone who's already, in my background was already psychology and psychotherapy. So I knew a lot of these things, but the specificness of understanding that has deeply, deeply influenced me and touched me. So thank you, Aletha. Which of Aletha's books has had the most influence on me and why? Well, all of them in different ways. So again, I could go through everyone. I'm actually going to do a series, and I think that might even be the next series on Aletha's books. So I will then answer that question in much more depth as part of that. I would probably say I'll pick two. One is The Aware Baby, because again, that really speaks to this deep understanding of babies and their experience and their feelings and their needs and suppression, how that relates to feeding and sleep. And again, oh my gosh, what life-changing information is in that book. I'm forever grateful for that. And I would say probably, definitely Healing Your Traumatized Child, because it really helped me map the neurophysiology of stress and trauma, because I've always really focused on teaching aware parenting in terms of talking about feelings, the way I see it. And again, if you've done anything of mine or you've read my books and things, you would see that I often talk about, we can look at it from a feelings perspective, or we can look at it more from a neurophysiological perspective, and we can map the two to each other. And the other part of that was really, it touched me deeply again, was really understanding dissociation. I really, really understood dissociation at a much deeper level then, and again, which yes, it helped me explain things more clearly to others. So, yum. I love them all, and I would say those two probably have had the most effect on me. What qualities in Aletha have influenced me most as an instructor? Well, there's just so many that she exudes. To me, is that I'm so inspired by how she shares this information, which is so life-changing, and you're hearing a little snippet of my experience and this experience for hundreds of thousands, if not many more people all around the world over decades. And yet to me she has such, I would describe as humility, like this, it's amazing. I think this work is so amazing. And this quiet humility, this presence, and this deep sense of trust. And really, I have learnt so much about trust from Aletha's work and from practicing aware parenting. Trusting the innate wisdom of my children has helped me trust my innate wisdom, which has helped me then go on to trust the innate wisdom of my mentees. And I've really learned that from her, and in that really clear way, again, that she really trusts us as instructors. And this combination of loving accuracy, like, again, if you've read any of her books, you'll see that the clarity and accuracy and the distillation of how she thinks and how she communicates. I haven't seen anything like it ever with anyone else. And so this combination of the distillation and the clarity and this deep trust in how we each share it in our own unique way. So she's very clear about that. She really wants the accuracy about which terms are aware parenting, which aren't, of course, as any modality does. And within that, there's always this sense of trusting us to share it in our own unique ways. And to me, that combination I have found so delicious and has absolutely influenced me, not only in my parenting, in my mentoring, in the way I facilitate courses and groups and all the things. And I imagine as well just the sense of just keeping on in the background, writing, sharing, creating, this solidity of this work is here and it's going to keep on being here and it's going to keep on growing, and it's just there's this solidity, this wisdom, this presence, this trust. All influenced me deeply. If I had to express my gratitude to Aletha through a story, which story would I choose? Funnily enough, there were ones which, again, if you've been listening to me over years, you would have heard me share both of these stories, and they're the ones that really jumped to my mind. One is Michael and I going to various cafes, restaurants when our lovelies were little, and I'm often thinking about the ages maybe 2 and 6, things like that. Going in there and then being Ryan and Sunny just being so present and sitting and eating presently. And in fact, one particular experience where we were invited to a house, and it was the evening and there were lots of children there, and again, you know me, I have zero judgment, really seeing by this time, of course, so none of the other parents were practicing aware parenting. It was an unusual connection, and of course it was evening, so all the children were and they were in a big environment, and they were all running around, and most of them would sit down and just get straight up and be running around, and not just in an excited way, but also in an agitated way, clearly trying to release some of the feelings that had built up in their bodies. And I remember Lana and Sonny just both sitting there, like almost like and just, again, with such presence, the exuding of presence that, again, I still experience with them, and anyone who knows us, if you've ever hung out with them, you would have experienced that, as this quality of presence that I absolutely don't have. In fact, I was joking, Michael and I were there with Lana and Sonny yesterday or the day before, and I was saying, do you two ever kind of find it's funny, because he's a Tai Chi teacher and does various other beautiful things, and I said, do you ever find it funny that we are teaching and sharing about awareness and presence, and you have so much more than us, and you can see all the ways in which we're absolutely not that. Such a funny thing. Anyway, so yeah, that experience at that time, and also often at the cafes or restaurants, and often the waitress or waiter would come up and say, oh my gosh, aren't they so good, Larry, they're good or well behaved, or those kinds of things. And we would always chuckle, like Larry would chuckle, and sometimes I may even say, yes, because we listen to lots of their feelings, or yes, because they've just had a big cry before we came out, depending on whether I was feeling a little bit and wanting to bring in a bit of fun. And again, that just made such a difference. And again, I'm not saying this was all the time. Of course, there were times where they had accumulated feelings, and certainly after he and I split up, they had a lot of accumulated feelings, certainly Sunny. But also that experience is so often just this quality of presence that I think that's one of the things I'm most sad about in terms of understanding children, that we're taught in this culture that agitation is just part, that's just how children are. So the ways in which children are not really deeply understood in so many ways, because we're not taught that unless we understand this work. So to see this quality of presence has been such a beautiful, gorgeous experience. And it's the similar one of, there's a particular shop I remember going to in Byron Bay, which had lots of little trinkets, and again, similar age. I'm sure you've heard me show these a million times, but again, they just really represent this kind of sense of difference, of how the aware parenting really supports children to be deeply present a lot of the time in ways that is actually quite unusual in our culture, because this isn't understood and it's not taught. Again, I really want you to know, if you're newer to aware parenting, or you're completely new to it, whatever, it's like I have zero judgment of any parent. And the same, Sonny was very agitated for quite a long time. He was hitting and headbutting every day for a long time. So this is zero judgment, but it's just the completely different understanding of actually how children are and can be when we meet enough of their needs and listen to enough of their feelings. None of us are going to be able to meet all of them needs or listen to all of the feelings. So anyway, we'd go into this little shop with trinkets, and I would almost see the shopkeeper's eyes kind of like, oh my gosh, there's young children, what chaos is going to ensue, how many things will get broken. And they would come in again, such presence, and even at 2 or very young ages, because also I was very into Montessori too, so they would handle breakable objects and have china cups and things. So they would go in, and because I was also really into order and the Montessori ordering things, they would actually often come in and not only pick things up really gently, but often if there were things that were things had been moved or things weren't in colour order, they would often go and we'd go in there and kind of reorganise the little things, and they would love doing that. And I often see just remember that a few times the shop person at the counter kind of like, what on earth is going on here? So, though that's a couple of stories. Is there an aspect of Aletha's work that I think is still ahead of its time? Well, ahead of its time in terms of the cultural norms haven't caught up with it. I mean, just about all of it. And if you've read my books, Sound Sleep and Secure Attachment with Aware Parenting, then we talk about this a lot in terms of culture, cultural beliefs, and so on. And I mean, all of aware parenting, but yeah, particularly the understanding that actually big feelings are safe to feel and express big feelings, as long as there is an adult present who the child feels safe with, and there is enough of what we call the balance of attention. And that actually, the more children are supported to feel and express their big feelings, the more present they are, the more calm and relaxed they are. And yeah, so say the proof's in the pudding. I hear it so often. I speak to mentees. Every time I speak to them, someone's saying, oh my gosh, wow, I see now. And especially as their child gets, often if they move from that infancy and they start seeing other children who, again, just no judgment of the parents, just who do not understand this way of understanding children, babies. And they notice all these really tangible differences. This is the thing, it's really tangible differences in terms of the presence, the eye contact, the relaxation, the ability to concentrate. And so often people say, oh my gosh, I didn't know children can sit and concentrate for hours and be really present. I didn't realise that children could sleep in a deeply relaxed way this young. I didn't realise that children could sleep without nappies this young age. So many ways in which parents are repeatedly telling me the surprise in terms of the absolutely tangible differences that really understanding that core piece makes, and particularly as the terms regulation, dysregulation, co-regulation are becoming more and more prominent. I think this understanding that big feelings, as long as there is an adult with whom there's a loving relationship, actually create deep relaxation, is becoming more and actually in some ways more and more ahead of its time. And about to write my third version of my article on regulation and share about it on my other podcast if you want to learn more about that. I can see I would like to answer every single one of these questions. So, you're wanting to share a moment when you realised that aware parenting was deeply affecting not just your parenting but your perception of human beings. Well, I don't remember the exact moment, but I do remember when I started to really think about adults in the same ways as aware parenting thinks about children, like, oh, yeah, really going through the list of 3 reasons for children's inverted commas challenging behaviour in aware parenting. So need for information, unmet needs in the here and now, and painful feelings, including from the past. Notice when I started also using that map, or seeing adults through that same map of curiosity and compassion and understanding, basically, so life-changing. And that's why I often think about, well, living aware parenting is like, it often starts as something that we think that we're going to do to our children. So often becomes so much about our relationship with them, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with our partner, our parents, our family, and the wider culture. And that's a lovely little butterfly. Hello, darling. So that was pivotal. So the effects of practicing aware parenting. So again, I think I've probably answered so many of the questions in what I've shared already. But yeah, I mean, everything that I share, I've observed in my own children. The deep presence. So when I mean presence, I mean this quality of presence that radiates throughout the room. You would have heard the stories, I'm sure, me sharing of that they still both exude so often. The ability to concentrate. I remember Lana, when she was 2.5, 3, and 3.5, we'd go back to England and she'd hang out with my mum in particular. I remember back in the day there were things called hammer beads, these little plastic trays with like pins sticking out, plastic pins, and put these little plastic, what are they called? What's that name? Little things anyway that you put on there, and you could later iron and make into the plastic would stick together. And I remember, I think one day they were just doing that together for something like 5 hours together, just fully concentrating. They both would constantly, they still do, concentrate on things for, and they're really interested in something, they will concentrate and concentrate and concentrate. So that wowzers. The deep restfulness with sleep, it was often a joke in our community a bit. If there was ever a homeschooling event, we'd often be late for it because they would sleep so long and so late. How much in love they were until their dad and I split up with each other. 99% of the time they were completely and utterly in love with each other. And I'm so glad to say after a very long journey that I just love seeing them hang out together again. It was so painful, and I love seeing them hang out and just connect so beautifully. Like everything, in every way I can think of. Awareness, compassion, noticing things. We drive along, maybe like, oh, see that bird in that tree, or that butterfly, or just the ability to perceive really clearly with awareness. Oh my gosh. Compassion, understanding, remembering people's names, just, the clarity of thinking. Yum, the sleep, let me think, anything else? Relaxation, presence, connectedness, care for animals, deep care for others, like deep care for animals and all beings. All kinds of things like that. Very, very yummy. Me and aware parenting now. Oh, I love all of these questions. What does it mean to me personally to be part of the lineage of aware parenting? Well, it means everything to me, and that's why, again, if you have seen in more recent years, it's something I've been more and more aware of in terms of seeing the ways in which I've shared things that have led to confusion in the aware parenting community, and my aim to absolutely rectify that and to be really clear that I am part of this lineage and I'm here representing Aletha and her work and aware parenting, and that I take that very, I would say, seriously, and that it's a deep honour to me to pass that lineage down, to be really clear that that's what it is. It is a lineage, and it's a learning lineage, and to be as clear as I can about, and that's why if you've listened to the earlier episodes in this new Living Aware Parenting podcast, or the ways in which I like to bring awareness to what influenced Aletha in creating aware parenting. It's really important to me that this is really, aware parenting is really honoured, and that as aware parenting instructors we see the honour and we really treat it with respect and care and reverence, as any tradition holder is invited to. And that my invitations for anyone who is an aware parenting instructor, but also anyone who's passionate about aware parenting and sharing it with others, also sees themselves. You are also part of the lineage, even if you're not officially an aware parenting instructor or mentor. That sharing that lineage is I think, a deep honour, and something that I really like to stand in deep appreciation of it. My vision of the future. Well, my vision always has been that this knowledge and information becomes known by more and more people who deeply resonate with it, and that's why I do what I do. It's why I show up day after day after day in all these different ways, in doing my own part, being part of this movement, being part of this lineage, as are many, 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 and many other hundreds of aware parenting instructors that I'm part of that. And I think, though, what I've realised in some ways that this may be a bigger journey, maybe a longer journey than I might have hoped, or maybe not. Change sometimes happens in unexpected ways. But my vision is that more and more and more parents who resonate access this information so they can, to whatever way they're able and willing to put this into experience, put this into practice. And really to know that, to whatever degree that is, if that's, we're all going to have different levels of passion with aware parenting. If that's just stopping punishments and rewards, if that's understanding the effect of feelings, that's going to have a massive effect in every single aspect. To whatever extent we're practicing, it's still going to have a big effect, even if we're not like, oh my God, like me, where parenting is my world. I'm here to contribute my part of it. I'm here to be part of the movement of sharing about it more, so that more people know. Everyone who resonates with it, whatever degree we resonate and practice it, it will and does make a difference. So, I mean, my dream would be that in every culture for which this is a fit, so I see that increasingly too, in every culture for which this is the most optimal for families, for the further evolution of humanity, that it's accessible and available, and that people are supported, parents are supported, families are supported, communities are supported, because it requires a lot to practice this. It requires a lot to be open to it. If a family's under deep stress, as so many families are, it's going to be really hard to even be open to this information. What would I like to say to parents? What's one thing I wish every parent knew about children, based on what I learned about aware parenting? And I think my computer's heating up, so I'm so willing for this to share these last two, but the video might be a bit delayed. Well, that children really can be present and loving. The children want to connect and cooperate and contribute. The children want to be present. They want to sleep when they're tired. They want to feel relaxed in their bodies. And they need our help to be connected, to have enough of their needs met, to have enough information, and to express enough of their feelings so that they can do what they innately know how to do. They are so wise. They are so innately wise. And so much of our journey is about getting free of the conditioning that actually gets in the way of that wisdom. So I see so much of the aware parenting journey being about, and that is big and can be really hard. Completion. What would I like to say, Aletha, as we finish this conversation? Aletha, I am beyond grateful. If I were to record 1 million of these, I could never really fully express how grateful I am to you for sharing this work in this in the world in this way, for sharing this work in the world in this way, for writing the books, for all your support, for your mentoring, for aware parenting, and the potential that I see that it has to create even more massive transformation in the world. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing what you're doing. I so trust that you will have many, many years, many decades more to share this information and to keep in the way that I so appreciate you that you're doing. I've enjoyed so many conversations of expressing the nuances more and more that you already know, but to us, so that we really understand this in the ways that you want it to be understood and taught and shared. Thank you for sharing this beautiful philosophy, this set of practices, this life-changing work. I'll be forever grateful to you. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you want to find out more about aware parenting and Aletha Solter's work, her website is awareparenting.com. She has, at the moment, 7 books. Highly recommend all of them. I recommend reading them all many, many times. And she has articles and so on her website. And actually, for today's episode, I'd really just like to keep it to be reflecting to her rather than sharing about the places where I share aware parenting. So I would like to leave it there. And I look forward to the other conversations. And so much love to you. Thank you for watching or listening. And P.S. If you would like to share with me, I might even collate something, maybe reading out, making a post or an email or something. If you would like to share answers to any of these questions, or if you'd like a list of these questions, please let me know. I would love to send them to you. Okie dokie. Oh, so much love.